Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, Deputy State Secretary, former State Secretary Ivan Baba, my friend, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, that it is a very special occasion that we are here. 30 years ago, a country in Central Asia declared its independence, 31st of August 1991, Kyrgyzstan, and we are remembering it. And Kyrgyzs did it in Bishkek in the previous days. You know, our representation office represents the Turkic countries and the Turkic nations, and we will remember the 30th anniversary of all countries. We start with Kyrgyzstan. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Foreign Minister, that in your busy schedule you could have time joining us and address us today. We invited the friends of Kyrgyzstan who know something, not a lot of things about Kyrgyzstan, and they visited the country. The Turkologists, they are familiar with the basic elements of the language of Kyrgyz, and I am very glad that we are here together and remembering and celebrating the 30th anniversary of the independence of Kyrgyzstan.
Următoarem darjana mırzalar, următu ministrden orembasarı mırza, Kırgız Respublikasının egemen buluk kuna kuttek time. Dear ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, deputy minister, ambassadors, on behalf of Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade of Hungary, I would like to welcome you and to congratulate our Kyrgyz friends, our Kyrgyz brothers on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of independence. It's a great pleasure that we have opportunity to celebrate together here at the beautiful representation office of the Turkey Council in Budapest. And I think I can firmly state that now we are experiencing the most intensive and most active years of Hungarian-Kyrgyz cooperation and friendship. I can recall from my personal memories the visit of Prime Minister Viktor Orbán to Kyrgyzstan in 2018, where at the beautiful lake of Issyk-Kul, for the first time, leader of Hungary participated at the summit of the Turkic Council, Turkic-speaking states summit. And actually it was a turning point which resulted in Hungarian participation and later on joining the Turkic Council as a representative country, as an observer country. And now it resulted in being here at the representation office of the Turkey Council here in Europe in Budapest. So I do believe that both on bilateral and on multilateral level we are experiencing a very intensive period of our cooperation. Needless to say, the number of visits of ministers, of high representatives, of leaders of countries to each other, and I still do believe that we are in front of a similarly very active period of time. We have opened Embassy of Hungary in Bishkek as the only country coming from Central Eastern Europe. Now we are looking forward to the opening of the Embassy of Kyrgyzstan in Budapest. I think it's a matter of weeks or maximum months, and it will be a very significant moment in our history. We became strategic partners, and now we are about to establish a strategic cooperation council with participation of our ministers, and once a year this will be a platform, a forum to discuss all the topics on the agenda and to add more to the development of our cooperation. And what is very important is that we have signed an agreement on establishment of the direct investment fund a bilateral fund, which is a perfect instrument to increase our cooperation, not only on political but also on economical and trade issues to a higher level. So we are looking forward to continue in the same manner and in the same way. And it's a special occasion that we can celebrate the independence of Kyrgyzstan together, because 30 years is a quite significant period of time. I do believe that after 30 years, not one, but already two generations of people grew up in Kyrgyzstan for whom the independence of the state is natural. So they've been born under independent state and they consider it absolutely a natural thing to be citizens of independent Kyrgyzstan. I would like to wish centuries and infinite time of freedom, independence, and prosperous development for brotherly Kyrgyz nation and brotherly Kyrgyz Republic. Thank you very much for your attention.
It's a great honor for me to address such a honorable audience here in Budapest. Dear Mr. Hovari, dear Mr. Barani, ladies and gentlemen, Aida spoke in Kyrgyz language. Mr. Barani also delivered his remarks in Kyrgyz language, so I must also to speak in Kyrgyz language just to address my compatriots here in this room. If you allow me. Урматтуу мекендештер, урматтуу биздин жердештер, биринчиден сиздерди Кыргыз Республикасынын эгемендүүлүгүнүн 30 жылдыгы менен чын жүрөгүмдөн куттуктаймын. Сиздерге ишиңиздерге ийгилик, өлкөбүздүн өнүгүп өсүшүнө сиздер дагы чоң салымыңыздарды кошот деп ишенемин. Мындан ары чогуу биргеликте иштеп, Кыргызстанды дүйнө жүзүндө таанытууга сиздер дагы чоң салым кошосуздар деп ишенемин. Бардыгыңыздарга чын ден соолук каалаймын. At the outset, Excellencies, please allow me to offer sincere appreciation to the Representation Office of the Turkic Council in Hungary, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade of Hungary for organizing today's event dedicated to the 30th anniversary of the independence of the Kyrgyz Republic. I would like also to express my personal gratitude to Mr. Ambassador Hovari for his initiative and warm hospitality. I appreciate Mr. Barani for attending this event despite your busy schedule. The opening of the Representation Office of the Council of Turkic-speaking States in Budapest, the implementation of such an important, promising project has become possible thanks to the desire of Turkic integration and consistent policy of the Hungarian side, as well as the personal contribution of Prime Minister of Hungary, His Excellency Mr. Viktor Orban, and the constant support and generous support of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary, His Excellency Mr. Peter Szijjártó. The activities of the Representation Office of the Turkey Council in Hungary are intended to become an important mechanism, a kind of bridge for promoting the development of political dialogue between Turkic and European countries. We have high hopes for your work and wish you great success. Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, according to historical standards, 30 years are considered to be a small period of time for our country, which has gone through many dramatic events in its development. But the time has come to look back and try to understand what we have achieved and where we are moving to. We count the 30-year period of our independence from 1991, as was mentioned here by previous speakers, from the moment of collapse of the Soviet Union. However, by analyzing the main periods of history, we can conclude that the statehood of the Kyrgyz people goes back to 8th, 10th, and 17th century, when the Kyrgyz people had their own state and maintained extensive diplomatic ties with Mongolians, with Chinese and other nations at that time. From 860 to 873, 3 plenipotentiary Kyrgyz representatives were sent to the Chinese rulers and were accepted as representatives of an equal state. From the 17th century to the October Revolution of 19 17, the Kyrgyz people had no longer their own statehood. And this period was marked by heavy deprivation, struggle for freedom and independence. This path for independence is described in the heroic folk epic Manas. Since the gaining independence in 1991, the Kyrgyz Republic entered a difficult period of transformation. The country faced a number of serious problems in the economy, domestic and foreign policy. It was necessary to solve simultaneously a set of tasks, including a transition to a new social and economic model of development, market economy, independent foreign and security policy. Actually, it was a very difficult period of transformation, not politically, economically, but also mentally, psychologically. In 1990s, Kyrgyzstan pursued active domestic and foreign policy, which resulted in forming democratic standards of power, free media, multi-party system, and strong civil society. Integration into the world community, multilateral cooperation, and effective participation in international organizations have become the main priority in the foreign policy of Kyrgyzstan based on multi-vector approach. On 2nd March 1992, in accordance with the UN General Assembly Resolution 46225, Kyrgyzstan became a full member of the United Nations, and its sovereignty and independence were recognized by the world community. The Kyrgyz Republic became the first country in the post-Soviet area to join the WTO in 1998, which helped Kyrgyzstan to promote the reforms in the country and establish the trade regime in line with international norms. Kyrgyzstan was also the first in the post-Soviet area to introduce a national currency. This period was also marked by significant achievements in its foreign policy. In 2002, in Bishkek, under the auspices of the United Nations, the Global Mountain Summit was held, and the Bishkek Declaration was adopted with the aim of ensuring sustainable development of mountainous countries, reducing poverty and preserving mountain ecosystems. On the initiative of the Kyrgyz Republic, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a number of resolutions, including on declaring December 11 International Day of Mountains in 2003, and on declaring February 20th World Day of Social Justice in 2007. The role of international community and in the prevention of radiation threat in Central Asia, the resolution also was adopted in 2013, and the second resolution on this topic was adopted just 2 years ago. Our country is also a co-author of an international initiative for the conservation of snow leopard, organizing in 2013 and 2017 high-level global forums. In 2021, on the initiative of the Kyrgyz Republic, the United Nations General Assembly adopted another resolution entitled Nature Knows No Borders. Transboundary cooperation is a key factor in the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity in order to preserve and protect the world's biodiversity. Concerted efforts of Kyrgyzstan on preserving the development of historical and cultural heritage contributed to the inclusion of 9 objects into the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List of tangible and intangible cultural heritage. Since joining the United Nations, Kyrgyzstan has been attaching great importance to participation in the work of United Nations governing bodies. Kyrgyzstan has been elected to such important UN bodies as the United Nations Human Rights Council, the Economic and Social Council, the UNESCO World Heritage Intergovernmental Committee, the UNESCO Executive Board, and many, many others. Currently, the Kyrgyz Republic nominated its candidacy for the election to the Human Rights Council for the period of 2023-2025, and non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for period of 2027-2028. Special attention in foreign policy of Kyrgyzstan was paid to the issues of regional security, non-proliferation, and conflict resolution. Among those, it is worth noting the initiative in 1997 on the elaboration of treaty on a nuclear weapon-free zone in Central Asia. In July 1998, a consultative meeting of 5 Central Asian countries, 5 nuclear powers, and the High Representative of the United Nations was held in Bishkek. It was 5+5+1 format. As a result, the treaty was signed in 2006 in Semipalatinsk, Kazakhstan. Today, Kyrgyzstan is the depository of this treaty and the Negative Security Assurances Protocol, which is also in recognition of Kyrgyzstan's contribution to non-proliferation and declaring the nuclear weapon-free zone in Central Asia. I should also mention that Kyrgyzstan was the first country in the region who contributed to the United Nations peacekeeping operations. We are now in the list of police personnel and military observers contributing states of the United Nations. I would also like to mention the participation of our country in the settlement of conflicts in neighboring fraternal Tajikistan in 1992, when after bloody civil war, tens of thousands of Tajik refugees, including women, children, and the elderly, received asylum in Kyrgyzstan. The Kyrgyz Republic, as a mediator, also facilitated the signing in Bishkek in May 1997 of the protocol on political issues between the official authorities of Tajikistan and the United Tajik Opposition. On May 5, 1994, the Kyrgyz Republic played a key role in the cessation of active hostilities between Azerbaijan and Armenia around Nagorno-Karabakh by providing a platform for the signing of the Bishkek Protocol calling for an end of the armed conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh. Counting on future interaction to ensure peace, stability, and security in the region, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan established the Central Asian Economic Community in 1994, which was later transformed into the Organization of Central Asian Cooperation in 2002 and abolished due to the merger with the Eurasian Economic Community in 2005. 10 years later, in 2015, Kyrgyzstan became the 5th member state of the Eurasian Economic Union with Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Armenia, which led to positive results in trade and economic relations, as well as to the increase in industrial production and agriculture, favorable opportunities for Kyrgyz entrepreneurs. One of the main advantages for Kyrgyzstan was the improvement of conditions for Kyrgyz citizens in the labor market of the Russian Federation and Kazakhstan, including employment procedures for labor migrants. In 2016, the Kyrgyz Republic, with the first country in Central Asia, was granted by the European Union the GSP Plus status, which allowed exporting the Kyrgyz products to the European market on preferential terms for more than 6,000 items. This status has been granted to only 10 states in the world that have taken full obligations to respect human rights. After receiving the GSP Plus status, exports from Kyrgyzstan to the countries of the European Union showed positive dynamics. But non-effective strategy of reforming the economy, accompanied by a growing level of poverty and unemployment, the social and economic situation in the country was significantly deteriorated. The concentration of power in the hands of the president and his family clan has provoked mass protests of the population, which resulted in the People's Revolution of 2005 and then in 2010. This was my first part of speech on the looking back to the history of Kyrgyzstan. Where is Kyrgyzstan today and its prospects? In October 2020, the people of Kyrgyzstan has once again demonstrated that it is the only source of power and barrier of sovereignty in the country, and only the people of Kyrgyzstan decide which way the country should go and who will lead it. Guided by the goal of renewal and sustainable development, Kyrgyzstan is modernizing all spheres of public life. This year, we adopted a new version of the Constitution of the Kyrgyz Republic, which, with the approval of the population, established the presidential form of governance in the Kyrgyz Republic. On 10th January 2021, His Excellency Sadir Japarov was elected as the President of the Kyrgyz Republic with support of 79% of voters. In November this year, we expect to hold parliamentary elections in Kyrgyzstan. The new course of our country is aimed at reforming public administration, strengthening democracy and independent judiciary, solving social and economic environmental problems, security issues, improving the welfare and preserving the unity of our people. Of course, COVID-19 pandemic hit us badly. Borders with our neighboring countries were closed, the routes of trade were disrupted, and it's also negatively affected the economy of the Kyrgyz Republic. In 2020, economic growth was down up to 8.6%. But in 7 months of 2021, we observe improvement of economic activities. In some sectors, we see even small growth. We attach great importance to the development of trade and economic relations with all interested partners and the attraction of investment, modern technologies and innovations, the promotion of regional and international transport and communication routes, digitalization. Our immediate goal is to accumulate at least 17 billion soms in stabilization fund, which was just recently announced by the president of Kyrgyzstan. We have developed plans to provide financial assistance to small and medium-sized businesses to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. It is planned to allocate 6 billion soms to provide interest-free financial assistance to small and medium-sized businesses. In addition, 24 million guarantee fund will be created to enable small and medium-sized businesses to receive loans from the commercial banks. All this were announced just recently during the speech of President on the occasion of the independence of Kyrgyzstan. The location of the Kyrgyz Republic in Central Asia, which is a connecting bridge between Europe and Asia and on the road of the Great Silk Road, creates favorable conditions for the development of transport and information communications, logistics, trade, investment, tourism, cultural diversity, education, scientific progress, and other directions. At the same time, the mountainous territory of Kyrgyzstan and the lack of access to the sea requires expanding comprehensive cooperation with the international community, including diversification of trade and economic relations, international transport communications, and the development of the digital economy. Therefore, the Kyrgyz Republic pursues a pragmatic, balanced, open, multi-vector, and consistent foreign policy. The Kyrgyz Republic stands for international cooperation based on the universally recognized principles and norms of international law, enshrined in the United Nations Charter and other international documents to which the Kyrgyz Republic is a party, including the sovereign equality of states, non-use of force and threat of use of force, non-interference in internal affairs, respect for territorial integrity, and the resolution of international disputes by peaceful means. Today, the Kyrgyz Republic established diplomatic relations with 165 states in the world, is a member of 124 international organizations, hosts more than 90 diplomatic and consular missions, 27 United Nations agencies. Diplomatic missions of the Kyrgyz Republic operate in more than 30 countries around the world. And as Mr. Barani just mentioned, I hope that very soon we'll establish the Embassy of the Kyrgyz Republic here in Budapest. Traditionally, the priority direction of the foreign policy of the Kyrgyz Republic is promotion and strengthening regional cooperation with our brotherly neighboring countries. We are determined to continue expanding relations with neighboring countries, not only at bilateral level, but also in the framework of international organizations and consultative meeting of the heads of Central Asian states, which is an important mechanism of interaction. Just recently in Turkmenistan, we held the third consultative meeting of the head of states of Central Asia. The next meeting of presidents of Central Asia will be held in Kyrgyzstan next year. We achieved important results following the visits of President of the Kyrgyz Republic, Sadir Japarov, just after his election, to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan. Active cooperation will be continued with our allies and strategic partners. For Kyrgyzstan, cooperation with the Russian Federation as our close and reliable ally is of particular importance. A meaningful political dialogue has been established between our countries at all levels. Productive cooperation is underway in various fields, as well as partnership interaction within the framework of the Eurasian integration processes, international and regional organizations, a large number of ongoing joint projects. It is logical that President Sadir Japarov, right after his election as president, made his first visit to the Russian Federation. We are ready to actively develop trade and economic relations with our largest neighbor, which is China. The assistance and support of China was very important for us, especially during the pandemic. We will further strengthen our relations with brotherly Turkey, our first European strategic partner, Hungary, as well as with other partners. In our bilateral relations with the Western countries, we are ready to develop and diversify the areas of interaction. Concerning the cooperation with the United States of America, the important work will be continued on a basic cooperation agreement on which we are working with our American partners. We intend to intensify interaction with the European Union. We hope that the signing of the enhanced partnership and cooperation agreement, which was initialed in 2019 in Bishkek, will bring the Kyrgyz-European relations to a new, higher quality level. We constantly feel the support of the European partners such as Germany, Switzerland, Great Britain, and others throughout the entire period of our independence. The Kyrgyz Republic is also highly appreciates the positive dynamics of cooperation with the leading states of South Asia, with Japan, South Korea, as well as countries of South and the Middle East. The intensification of our ties with the Arab countries is one of the important directions of foreign policy of the Kyrgyz Republic. We will strive for active interaction both at the bilateral level and within the framework of international and regional organizations. Concerning the cooperation with the regional and international organizations taking into account the national interests, the Kyrgyz Republic follows a strategic course towards deepening of regional trade, economic, cultural, humanitarian, technological, military, political interaction and integration within the Eurasian Economic Union, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Commonwealth of Independent States, Collective Security Treaty Organization. We are also interested in enhancing cooperation with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, of course with the Cooperation Council of Turkic-speaking states, with Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia, SICA, Economic Cooperation Organization, Organization of Islamic Conference, and many, many others. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like also to highlight our cooperation within the framework of the Turkic Council, since we are here in the Office of Turkic Council Representation Office in Budapest. It was a historic event when, in 2009, at the summit of the heads of states of the Turkic-speaking countries, the Nakhchivan Agreement was signed between Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkey, officially launching the Turkic Council. As you know, the Turkic Council cooperation has geographically expanded by granting the observer status to Hungary in 2018 and joining Uzbekistan as full member in 2019. Hungary's becoming an observer to the Turkic Council constitutes a new milestone of the Turkic Council. Today, Hungary has been engaged in most of cooperation activities of the Council. The establishment of the representation office in Budapest became a strategic political decision of the head of states of Turkic Council and Hungary, with task to further develop a more robust cooperation between Hungary and the Turkic-speaking states, as well as paves the way of an institutional mechanism with Visegrad Group and the key institutions of the European Union. Hungary's decision to take these steps proves the high value that it attributes to deepen its relation with the Turkic states, with which Hungary shares historical and cultural ties. Currently, the Representation Office is effectively serving as supporting instrument in Europe by disseminating information, organizing meetings, conferences, and workshops, promoting educational and cultural events, as we witnessing today. It is also contributing to implementation of the initiatives of the member states and Hungary, as well as the activities of the Secretariat. Today, the Turkey Council has become a full-fledged international organization with an effective mechanism for furthering cooperation in different areas. The long-standing historical ties among the member states have been transformed into planned, institutional, and sustainable collaboration to address the needs in the area ranging from economic development to transport, customs, tourism, education, youth, and sports. The Kyrgyz Republic fully supports the establishment of the investment fund of the Turkey Council, which can become a very important tool for effective cooperation between our private sectors, especially for supporting small and medium-sized businesses. We are interested in accelerating the work on the establishment of the fund and hosting it in Bishkek. We also fully support the initiative to create Turkic trade houses in the member states, which would also contribute to promotion of exports of the member states and Hungary as well. As a next step, a clear vision for the future has been developed, which will shape the strategic orientation of the Turkey Council cooperation and integration efforts for the period until 2040. It's called the Turkic Vision 2040. The Kyrgyz side supports the adoption of this important document and the strategy for its implementation at the 8th Summit of the Turkey Council in November this year in Istanbul. We welcome the upcoming expansion of the Turkey Council by accession of the brotherly Turkmenistan and as an observer state, and the further transformation of the Turkey Council into the Organization of Turkic States. I would also like to mention that the Kyrgyz Republic initiated and held with a great success in 2014 the first World Nomad Games. The second and third games were also successfully held in Kyrgyzstan in 2016 and 2018. These bright events gave the world community the opportunity to feel the beauty of the spirit of ancient nations, the beauty of the brave spirit of nomadic peoples. The fourth World Nomad Games will be held next year in Turkey. We believe that the World Nomad Games have great potential and will serve the further development of sports and tourism in the countries of the Turkic world and Hungary. In this regard, it should be noted that the President of Kyrgyzstan, Sadir Japarov, during the informal summit of heads of states of Turkic Council, initiated the development of a tourist map within the framework of Turkey Council. This will give impetus to the development of socio-economic, trade, and cultural ties between our countries. We also regularly hold the Chingiz Aytmatov International Istiklal Forum with participation representatives of our countries. Our compatriot, a great writer, thinker, diplomat, Chingiz Aytmatov made a huge contribution to the world's cultural heritage. We are grateful to Hungary for awarding our writer with the High Order of Hungary in 2006 and naming a park in Budapest in honor of Chingiz Aytmatov in 2021. We appreciate that the Representation Office is preparing a publication in commemoration of Chingiz Aytmatov, which will be presented at the opening of the new office of the Hungarian Embassy in Bishkek. We consider it important to strengthen the cooperation among the youth of our countries, creating opportunities for young people to study, travel, explore their countries together. Today, it is also important to promote regional initiatives of the Turkey Council member states within the framework of the European Union strategy for Central Asia, to organize the Economic Forum of the EU and Central Asia, a regional tourism forum of Central Asian countries with the European Union. We hope that Hungarian delegation, as well as other delegations from Europe, will participate at the first EU Central Asia Economic Forum in Bishkek on the 5th of November this year. Today, Kyrgyzstan, as well as countries of the Turkey Council, face a number of common challenges. The most troubling issue is the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the health system and economies of our countries. The extraordinary summit in 2020 that was initiated by the Azerbaijani chairmanship of the Turkey Council and attended by heads of states of 5 Turkic states, the Prime Minister of Hungary and the Director General of WHO, deepened the cooperation in healthcare and built the mechanisms to fight collectively against the pandemic and mitigate its economic repercussions. Currently, the new wave of spreading coronavirus pandemic in the world is of great concern. Kyrgyzstan, like many other states, is experiencing difficulties that have negatively affected all spheres of life of people in the country. First of all, the safety and health of population. At the same time, we express our gratitude to the countries of Turkey Council and Hungary for the help and support provided to Kyrgyzstan in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, regional and international security issues are always of high priority on the foreign policy agenda that requires strengthening cooperation to ensure security at the national and regional levels. In this regard, Kyrgyzstan is deeply concerned about the difficult political situation in neighboring Afghanistan. We are sincerely interested in the earliest political stabilization, security in the country, and the well-being of the entire multinational people of Afghanistan. We hope that an inclusive government of Afghanistan will be formed, including all political and ethnic groups, regardless of their religion, in the interest of civilian population to provide equal opportunities, primarily for a safe life, healthcare, equal access to education for women and children, as well as equal access to public service. The threat of terrorism and extremism is quite serious for our countries. In this regard, Kyrgyzstan is cooperating with international organizations and all interested states in bilateral and multilateral formats in countering international terrorism and extremism, drug trafficking, transnational organized crime, cybercrime, illegal migration, and corruption. We are ready for fruitful work with our brothers from Turkic states and Hungary, as well as with all interested countries. We believe that together we will overcome all difficulties and contribute to building a better world. In conclusion, I would like to quote the message that was delivered by President of the Kyrgyz Republic during the celebration of Independence Day of Kyrgyzstan. Quote, "We all want to make Kyrgyzstan a stable, multinational country where every citizen feels happy and protected. Therefore, state policy for the next 5 years is aimed at building a modern, developed Kyrgyzstan, increasing citizens' confidence in the country, unity, creative activity of the people, as well as improving the quality of life and protecting the rights of citizens." Thank you very much for your attention.
Mr. Minister, Your Excellency, dear János, our host, Mr. Deputy State Secretary, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my good friends, good old friends, some of them are here. I got somehow the question from our host, János Hóvári, to remember and to recall somehow how we have started this process of cooperation with Kyrgyzstan. Let me remember the name of Chingiz Aitmatov as well. As we know, the Hungarian intellectuals of the years of 70s and 80s all tried to get deeper and more detailed information about the Soviet Union, which was somehow covered with a red socialist carpet, and we tried to get beneath of it. We tried to get some more information about so-called non-Russian population, non-Russian cultures, about the other nations and peoples of the Soviet Union. And the channel of this communication, of this information, was mainly the culture, the cultural ties, and among these was the literature. So somehow Chingiz Aitmatov was a symbolic figure of these years. As you know, that with his first novel translated into Hungarian, the Hungarian title was the Versenyló halála, the death of the racehorse. I don't know what's its English title. It was a frenetic success in Hungary. And Chingiz Aitmatov immediately became one of the most popular writers here in Hungary, immediately belonged to those writers, the most famous writers of the Hungarian readers of those years. I don't want to go into the details, it was mentioned several times. So Chingiz Aitmatov is a great symbolic figure of our relations. I was the member of the Hungarian opposition of those years, between 85 and 90. And I remember that after Mikhail Gorbachev had been elected, we had the feeling that some lights appeared somehow on the horizon of our history and our present state. And so we somehow opened the communication in as much as possible it was. So tried to rebuild up as much ties with our neighbors as it was possible, and with some nations and peoples of the Soviet Union as well. These ties was oriented mainly to the Baltic states, they were closer, and to some Russian intellectual circles, of course, because there were oppositional intellectual circles of Russia, and it was very, very fascinating, in some cases very sad, having these relations with them concerning those harassments which they are living in. We knew that the Soviet Union was in decline, but of course it was absolutely unpredictable what would happen and how long the decline would go on. Nobody predicted the year 90 or 91 in those years. And so the collapse and the dissolution of the Soviet Union was a very great event, but as we know, the world, especially the Western world, was not very much prepared for it, was not prepared for those changes in Central Europe either. Our network, the relation with Ukraine and Baltic states was quite active, and with the Polish friends as well. But after 1990, we tried to build up closer relations with the societies of other regions of the former Soviet Union. So the leaders of the Hungarian Democratic Forum had always been appreciating the cultures of Central Asia and the Turkic world, and many literary works had been translated besides Chingiz Aitmatov. And these were published in the Tiszatály and Alföld and other monthly reviews of the Hungarian literature. Lezsák Sándor, one of the foundings of the Hungarian Democratic Forum, and now vice speaker of the Hungarian Parliament, played a leading role in these efforts, as well as András Kelemen. I don't know if he is here with us. He is not with us. András Kelemen was a symbolic figure of these relations. He, as a psychiatrist, wrote an excellent samizdat about the Turkic peoples. And our efforts were supported of the Prime Minister, inaugural Prime Minister of the democratic era, József Antal. Now I have to mention and recall some names concerning those years. Among Hungarian Turkologists, István Mándoki Kongur had the most widespread relation network in Central Asia. Starting from the 1970s, he spent his summer times under holiday there and mastered the languages of the region. In 1992, he contributed with several great initiatives to the efforts of the Hungarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in that region. However, the same year, he suddenly passed away, and we buried him in Almaty. István Márnoki Kangur's role was carried on by his colleagues József Torma, and he also became our inaugural ambassador in Almaty in 1991. Let me welcome here his son, Tamás Torma, who is now the excellent diplomat of the Hungarian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who served in the Turkic region as well. And of course, the ambassador István Vásári, whose name is well known in the field of Turkology in Hungary as well. Then I was the Deputy State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, responsible for the whole former Soviet region. And I had wonderful colleagues who paid strong attention to our relations with the new Turkic republics. Let me welcome here Ernő Keskeny, my excellent friend and colleague, who was the head of the department and later ambassador to Russia and Ukraine, and his deputy, Sergei Szűcs. Sergei is not easily with us, who later the general consul, and János Hóváry, of course, how could I say, the leading Turkologist of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the ambassador of Hungary in Ankara and other missions as well. I also have to mention the name once more, the name of András Kelemen. András Kelemen then became the political state secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, practically the deputy minister of Foreign Affairs, who knew the Turkic world very well and made a lot of efforts to express toward that region that we Hungarians, we were aware of the common ancestry and we wanted to help. Our first diplomats arrived to Bishkek in the fall of 1991. Since then, we have continuous relations between Budapest and Bishkek. Kyrgyz people have achieved great things in the last 30 years. We remember these beginnings, and I hope that this successful road will continue. I wish you all the best, a lot of successes. Thank you for your attention.